My mother disowned me when I came out, and the police chief became my guardian. "Get out," my mother said, and the door clicked like a seatbelt before a crash. I stood on the porch with a backpack, my phone at 12% in a sky that couldn't decide between rain and pity. My name is Jordan. I'm 17, a senior who counts credits like rations. English left, government left, cap and gown already paid off. I came out at dinner, said what I am with both hands steady on the table, and Meredith, my mother, looked at me like a stain that wouldn't lift. She killed my health app access, canceled the rideshare card ending 4431, and changed the house alarm code I'd used since middle school. That night, I slept in the back seat of Dad's old sedan that never quite stopped smelling like coffee in winter. The dash clock kept glowing 2:37 a.m., then 2:38, then forever. I texted my best friend, Mia, that I was safe. Though safe is a generous word when the car locks stick and your breath fogs the glass. Around 4, a cruiser rolled by, slowed when it saw my school parking decal, and moved on. At sunrise, I washed in a gas station restroom, used paper towels for a towel, and stared at a kid who needed a shave and a plan. I kept thinking about practical things, transcripts, immunization records, the insurance card Meredith held like a passport. I also kept hearing her last sentence, said calmly like she was reading oven directions. "You can come home when you're normal." I wasn't normal by her definition, and I wasn't coming home on her terms. I had no address, little battery, and one clear next step I dreaded. The story before the story is rules, scripture, and 1,000 small silences. Meredith ran our house like a chapel with a chore chart. Sin had categories, and doubt was laziness with better PR. If my shoes squeaked on the hardwood, she said, walk gentler. If I asked questions in church, she said, humility first, curiosity later. When I was 13, she tried prayer counseling, which meant I sat in a cold office and let someone with a soft voice ask if my feelings were a season. Seasons change, I didn't. We had a deal until last week. Keep the peace, keep the roof. Then she found a chat on my phone from Mia about a crush of mine. No names, just a blush emoji and a line about breathing easier. That night my phone cracked under her hand like a thin-skinned fruit. Influences, she said, while the screen spidered white. She cut off the family plan, froze the joint debit card tied to my lunch account, and told the school nurse I'd no longer be on our HMO Blue 2867 insurance. I learned practical survival tricks fast. School Wi-Fi still worked if you signed in with your student ID. The library still printed for free if you smiled. I added 2 numbers, Mia's and the crisis line, to a cheap prepaid flip phone that made everything sound like a weather report. Meredith left brochures on my bed from a restorative program I'd never heard of. On the cover, a smiling teen looked past the camera toward a horizon you couldn't buy. The words restorative program sounded harmless until I read the small print. First, red flags come disguised as shared passwords that suddenly don't share back. My email bounced. The patient portal said, user disabled. The school counselor appointment I'd booked for Friday at 10:30 was mysteriously canceled, rescheduled for family consultation, without me in the calendar. I asked our front office, and Ms. Patel at the desk frowned. It shows a parent call, she said, yesterday at 3:12 p.m. At 3:12, I was in chemistry, titrating patients. Text messages from Meredith arrived like weather alerts. You can still fix this. Obedience precedes blessing. I found a program that helps. I took screenshots on the library Chromebook with the snip tool and saved them to a flash drive Mia bought at the drugstore. I created a folder called JProof, because proof is how adults listen when their love is tired. I changed the passwords I still owned. I set up 2-factor on the new email, using Mia's number as backup. I wrote down my backpack inventory like a quartermaster. Hoodie, notebook, toothbrush, charger, small framed photo of Dad at the county fair, smiling like a man who could fix fences with a promise. For 20 minutes, I almost convinced myself this was a misunderstanding, a loud storm that would pass and leave branches, but not losses. Then an unknown number called and left a voicemail about a renewal plan that would restore family harmony through structured care. The callback number matched the brochure Meredith left under my pillow, as if I was a child looking for tooth fairy money. Escalation announced itself on a Sunday, under stained glass and a sugar cookie smell from the church kitchen. Our pastor asked for prayers for families under attack, and half the room glanced toward our pew. After the service, a woman from the prayer team hugged me like a seatbelt and whispered, "You can be healed if you want it." I said thank you because I was tired and because kindness sometimes comes in costumes. That afternoon, the phone rang again. Same unknown number, different script. "Jordan, this is Grace Renewal," a voice said, smooth as a ribbon. "We have an intake slot this week. Your mother has already submitted the consent." My palm got cold. "I didn't consent," I said. The voice paused, then resumed like I hadn't spoken. "We're faith-based, evidence-informed." Evidence of what? They didn't say. At home, or what used to be home. Meredith introduced me at a parent group as a season of hardship. She smiled at me like a teacher begging a class to behave while the principal watches. I stood by the punch bowl and counted exits. That evening, I sat alone on the football bleachers and watched a sky refuse to choose a color. A patrol SUV rolled up polite and slow. The driver window slid down. "You all right there, kid?" the officer asked. I said yes out of habit, no out of honesty. He nodded like he'd heard both. "Chief Daniels is making rounds," he added. I didn't know the chief personally, only by uniforms and news stories, but apparently he knew my last name, and that mattered. Exile looks like couch cushions that don't belong to you. Mia's parents let me crash 3 nights. Then an aunt let me stretch a sleeping bag on a carpet that smelled faintly of oranges and old perfume. You can be loved and still be temporary. On the 4th night, Ms. Alvarez from social services met me at the library. She wore flats that said she walked all day and eyes that said she'd learned to listen twice before writing once. "I'm here because someone filed a concern," she said. "I need your words and your screenshots." I told her everything with the pauses left in. She asked about school, food, safety, and whether I felt pressured to return home. "Yes," I said. "No," I said. "It depends," I admitted. She didn't flinch. She took notes with a neatness that made me feel held. An hour later, a tall man in a navy jacket walked in and removed his cap like he was entering a kitchen, not a library. "I'm Daniels," he said, "not Chief, just Daniels. I knew your father a little. He helped coach Little League before." He stopped, respectful in the silence where my father's name used to fill a room. "We can arrange safe lodging tonight," Daniels offered. "By the book. Nothing fancy, just a bed and a door that locks." Ms. Alvarez nodded. "We'll start with emergency placement," she said. "No decisions without you in the room." I wanted to cry and didn't. I wanted to sleep and couldn't. I wanted a grown-up who believed me enough to sign their name under mine. Daniels looked at Alvarez, then at me, and said the thing that unclenched my chest. Suspicion flared into focus when Mia forwarded me an email Meredith had mistakenly CC'd to the PDA list. Attached was a PDF named consent_restoration_GE. PDF. The signature block had my name typed, Jordan E., and a digital squiggle that looked like someone practicing cursive on a roller coaster. The date read April 11th, 9:08 p.m. At 9:08, I was in algebra tutoring. The program, Grace Renewal Center, promised cell phone-free immersion and limited outside contact for the first 30 days. I printed the PDF at the library and checked its properties. Created April 11th, 9:06 p.m. Modified 9:08. Author Meredith Home. Application Scanmaster 2. 3. The camp welcome email referenced a $1,500 deposit charge to a debit ending 7329 with the memo Family Restoration, JRDN. I don't own a card ending 7329. Meredith does. I handed everything to Ms. Alvarez across a table that smelled like pencil shavings. She read, then reread. "This is serious," she said. "We're going to preserve these and request the originals." Daniels joined us. Scanned the pages with the care of a man who's seen too many families shatter from shortcuts. "We'll keep it procedural," he said. "No cowboy moves." That night, a church friend of Meredith's texted me. "You'll thank her later." I took a screenshot and saved it under jproof/coercion. TXT with the timestamp. Evidence doesn't argue, it waits. Ms. Alvarez called at 8:07 p.m. "Tomorrow we'll seek temporary guardianship for you with the court." She asked if I understood what that meant. I did and didn't at the same time. Breadcrumbs multiply when you know where the path likes to hide. I pulled phone logs from my prepaid account and matched them to voicemail metadata. The camp called 3 times from 555-013-2045. Meredith called them back from her office at 3:41 p.m., the day of my counselor cancellation. I still had the school bell schedule. At 3:41, I was in the lab, inhaling vinegar fumes and memorizing the sound of appointments disappearing. Ms. Alvarez coached me to write a short affidavit. Facts only, dates, no adjectives. I typed slowly and attached copies of texts, the brochure, and the consent PDF. Daniels asked if I'd received any threats. Only spiritual ones, I said, and he nodded like he'd seen that cut before. I also emailed the camp with a clean sentence. I do not consent to any enrollment, transport, or program on my behalf. Their auto-reply chirped at once. Then a woman named Sharon G. wrote back, "We rely on parental authority. Minors cannot revoke." I forwarded that to Ms. Alvarez, who replied, "Saved." Meredith sent me 3 messages in a row. "You're being dramatic. I'm saving you. You'll meet good counselors." I stared at the phrases and saw a future where my phone lay in a locker while someone prayed the shape out of my heart. Daniels called and said, "If anyone attempts to move you without your clear consent, dial 911 and say possible custodial interference." It felt dramatic until I pictured a van and a clipboard. The mini twist was paperwork pretending to be care. Ms. Alvarez confirmed it. A formal application to Grace Renewal Center had been submitted with a box checked voluntary, parent signature Meredith E., and minor consent attached. There was also a sponsorship letter from First River Community Church promising a 20% discount for members in good standing. Attached ledger showed a $1,500 transfer on April 12th, last $473.29, and a pledge of $600 more upon transport. Transport, in that sentence, did not mean a bus with snacks and a sing-along. I Googled conversion therapy restrictions and learned our state restricted such practices with minors. But loopholes live where religious counseling and private retreats meet. Ms. Alvarez explained it plainly. They're trying to slide you through the side door. We printed the state's guidance, highlighted the relevant lines, and stapled them to my affidavit. Daniels coordinated with the juvenile court clerk to request an emergency hearing for Tuesday, 9 a.m. Temporary guardianship, he said, is a court order that lets a safe adult make decisions for you short-term. Housing, school, medical, so you're not stranded. I slept at a vetted host home that night, the kind with a welcome mat that wasn't lying. The room had a quilt and a lamp with a pull chain that clicked like a metronome for breathing. I kept my shoes by the door just in case I needed to run. I dreamed about clipboards knocking politely at midnight. The plan was proof first, feelings after. Ms. Alvarez helped me assemble a binder. Tab A, texts and screenshots. Tab B, email headers and PDF properties. Tab C, bank ledger excerpts with only the last 4 digits. Tab D, school letters. My counselor's initial appointment and the suspicious cancellation entry. Tab E, state guidance on conversion practices. Tab F, a short letter from Mia, witnessed by the school notary, stating where I slept the night I was kicked out. Daniels worked the logistics. Secure transport to court. A quiet room if anyone from church tried to corner me. A contact at the clerk's office who understood teenagers don't belong in hallways alone. "We'll ask for a protective order too," he said. Narrowly tailored. No surprise pickups, no third-party transport. He explained each term like a coach reviewing plays, slow enough to settle, firm enough to stick. Mia squeezed my hand on the school steps and said, "I'll sit in the back if they let me." I said yes, then no, then yes again. We're 17, we toggle between brave and braver. I rehearsed one sentence in my head. I want to finish school, sleep in safety, and decide my life. I wrote it on an index card because truth feels stronger when it survives ink. The night before the hearing, Meredith texted, "Come home now, and we can fix this privately." The word privately scratched like wool across sunburn. Close calls test whether your spine is borrowed or grown. Meredith showed up at school pickup with my uncle in the passenger seat, windows down, radio on the station I liked when I was 12. "Get in," she called, smiling like a family photo. "We'll talk at home and avoid a scene." My legs moved one step forward, then stopped. Uncle leaned across. "Your mom is trying," he said. "Don't make this bigger." Daniels had coached me to keep statements simple. I have a court hearing tomorrow, I said. I'm staying with approved adults. Meredith's smile tightened like a drawstring. You're brainwashed, she snapped softly. Those people hate families. A campus monitor drifted closer, pretending to check a trash can. The bell rang. Bodies filled the sidewalk like a shield. I backed away. Please don't contact me directly about transport, I said. All communication goes through Ms. Alvarez. Uncle sighed the way grown men do when a narrative refuses to obey. You'll regret this, he warned. That evening, a private number texted, driver arriving 6 a.m. Grace renewal. I forwarded it to Ms. Alvarez and Daniels. We'll be there at 5:45, Daniels replied. Stay inside until we knock. I slept in my clothes with the binder under my pillow like a medieval charm. At 5:46, a hand tapped the host home door, and another plan tapped the curb. The trap, lawful, boring, effective, was the courtroom itself. Juvenile calendar, muted walls, a seal that makes grown people talk softer. Ms. Alvarez sat on my left, Daniels on my right with a folder so thin it looked like a dare. Meredith arrived with a church friend who wore concern like jewelry. She tried to hug me. I stepped back and nodded because I am polite and because distance is not disrespect. Sometimes it's survival. The judge reviewed our emergency motion. MS. Alvarez presented tab A through F with calm hands. Texts urging restoration. The falsified minor consent. The deposit ledger ending 7329. The cancellation of my school counselor appointment. And the state guidance restricting conversion practices with minors. Daniels laid out a brief timeline. Call times, voicemail metadata, the pre-dawn driver arriving text. Meredith spoke about love and confusion and wanting professionals to help. The judge asked, professionals registered with which licensing board? The church friend interjected, but the judge raised one finger and the room remembered process. When asked directly if I wanted to attend the program, my voice found its square of floor. No, Your Honor, I said. I want to finish school, see my counselor, and be safe. The judge nodded once and turned to Meredith. Explain this consent form, she said. Silence weighs more when it carries ink. Big reveal moments never feel big while you're inside them. They feel like reading receipts aloud. Ms. Alvarez walked the court through the PDF's metadata, the mismatch between my alleged signature time and my algebra tutor's attendance sheet, the email from Sharon G. stating minors cannot revoke, and the transport text scheduling a pickup before any court review. Daniels submitted a short sworn statement from the school counselor confirming a parent-initiated cancellation without student consultation. Meredith tried the oldest rope bridge. I was scared. I overreacted, and then tried a newer one. I only wanted experts. The judge compared the camp's brochure wording, limited contact, with our state's guidance, lips tightening when she reached the phrase, no outside communication for 30 days. That is not care, the judge said evenly. Then came the line that finally split the costume at its seam. An internal email, produced by the camp in response to Ms. Alvarez's preservation request, noting, if minor resists, coordinate with church to encourage timely transport. The judge read it twice and set it down like something that might stain. I didn't look at Meredith. I looked at the seal on the wall and tried to breathe in fours like Ms. Alvarez taught me. The judge cleared her throat and asked if I had a safe placement in mind, and Daniels raised his hand halfway. Fallout is paperwork plus relief braided with grief. The judge granted temporary guardianship to Chief Daniels for 90 days, renewable, with explicit authority over housing, education, and medical decisions. She issued a narrow protective order barring Meredith or agents of any program from attempting transport or limiting my communications. She ordered that the school counselor appointments be restored and that my records be flagged for safety notes, not stigma. Meredith cried, and I didn't trust the sound because truth had just arrived, and sometimes tears ask you to carry their luggage. The church friend patted her shoulder and glared at me like I had rearranged gravity for spite. Daniel stayed still the way veterans stay still when fireworks surprise civilians. Ms. Alvarez squeezed my shoulder once. Professional, human, enough. We left with copies stamped, filed, and a plan that fit on a page. Move into a guest room at Daniel's house tonight. Meet with the school to reset my counselor schedule tomorrow, schedule a primary care visit to reinstate coverage under the guardian order, and start weekly check-ins with Ms. Alvarez. My phone buzzed. Mia, are you okay? Do you want pizza? I texted back. Yes. Later. We did it. She sent 6 fireworks and a heart shaped like a lopsided apple. Outside, the sky looked ordinary. Ordinary is what victory looks like after emergency. At the curb, Daniels dangled keys and asked if I liked dogs. Healing needs a checklist, not slogans. Daniel's place smelled like coffee and dog shampoo. His old shepherd, Rosie, inspected my suitcase and decided I was housebroken. We typed out house rules together. Curfew, fridge zones, school nights quiet by 10. He showed me the Guardian papers pinned inside a magnetic folder on the fridge, authority for medical appointments, school meetings, and reactivating my HMO Blue 2867 access. You'll keep your own choices, he said. I'm the scaffolding, not the finish. We met Ms. Alvarez every Thursday at 4. She taught me the words that replace fear: consent, boundary, appeal, record. I returned to the school counselor. My appointment pinged back into the calendar like a forgiven debt. I joined a support group at the community center where people laughed at things you're not supposed to laugh at, and nobody asked me to be grateful for what hurt. I texted the judge's clerk a thank you note because adults forget to thank the gears that turn. Mia and I ate pizza on Daniel's porch with Rosie snoring like a truck. Meredith sent 2 messages through Ms. Alvarez's official inbox asking for family dinners, and the answer, for now, was not without your therapist's coordination. In the mirror, I looked the same, which felt like theft and gift in equal parts. I slept with both eyes closed for the first time in weeks. Reflection is quiet inventory, not courtroom fireworks. I learned families are not contracts. They are daily choices measured in safety and respect. I learned temporary guardianship is a bridge with rails, not a prison. It lets a safe adult sign forms so a kid keeps living their life while the storm argues with itself. I learned a protective order can be thin as paper and still stop a van. I learned that screenshots are prayers for people who have to prove they're not imaginary. If you're watching this to the end, here is my simple advice. Document everything. Dates, times, last 4 digits, who said what, and how. Save PDFs and check their properties. The truth has timestamps if you let it. Ask for adults who write things down and show you the paper. If you're a parent, listen before you rescue. If you love faith, don't use it to hide wires in the walls. As for me, I will graduate in June. Rosie has learned my footsteps. Mia knows how I take my coffee now that I can afford coffee again. Meredith and I might talk in a room with a therapist one day, or we might not. Either way, my life is mine, and the door that locks tonight does so with my consent.